All right. So on the last video, we kind of got to this point where we had all of our layout done, and you want to kind of get everything laid out, all your all your buildings and your sidewalk and your road, and then start thinking about detail. Detail should always be last. So today we're going to kind of move towards this where we're going to add all of our windows, and we're going to do some stairs. We're going to do a catwalk, and we're going to put some bushes and things like that on the ground so that you can kind of see how to add detail. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start adding some windows. I'm going to try to zoom in just a little bit so that you can kind of see what I'm doing. Now, it doesn't matter if you can see this right vanishing point or not. If I say I'm taking it to the right vanishing point, it's going to that point. So make sure that you're always taking things to the point. Everything goes to that point if it's at the top or the bottom. All right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a window on the right side of our middle building, and we're going to do a frame around this window. So I'm going to go in just a little bit and do a vertical line. And since we're on the right side of the building, everything goes to the right vanishing point. So we're going to take the bottom and the top to the right vanishing point, and then the same thing that was at the beginning is the same thing at the end. We're going to do another one around this to make like a frame going around it. A lot of windows and doors have casings around them. And so realistically, if you were trying to get in like some real detail, then your windows and doors would have this casing around it more than likely. And it would have that little 45-degree angle in the corners. Then just adding some shine marks. You could even go as detailed in putting like tables and chairs and stuff like that inside the window that you could see, but we're not going to get that far. All right, and then over here on the left side, we're going to add a little skinny window, and we want it to be the same height as this one. So these should be even at the top, and it should also be even at the bottom. Then since we're on the left side now, the bottom and the top go to the left vanishing point. And we're going to do a much smaller window. It's not going to take up the whole side because we're going to add a door. So again, we want to do a frame by going inside that window just a little bit, and then taking the top and bottom to the vanishing point, but stopping before you get to the other side, and then just closing it off. And then some little shine marks to show that that's a window. The next thing we're going to do is some stairs right here. So to do the stairs, you just start with a vertical line. Like always, that's always our starter. And then you're going to take, Then you're going to take the top and the bottom to the right vanishing point. So the opposite. And you're going to do a little short line at the top and then a long line at the bottom. So these two lines go to the right vanishing point. Then you're going to come straight down, back to the right vanishing point, straight down, right vanishing point, and then straight back down. If you have anything left over at the end, you want to erase it. And then the line of the building, I like to go ahead and erase that so I don't confuse myself, because this can get pretty confusing with all these lines. Then every inside and every outside corner going down those steps go to the left vanishing point because we're on the left side of the building. If we were on the right side of the building, then they would go to the right vanishing point. All right, and then to add the other side of the steps, you just copycat. So the same thing we did on this side, we're going to do the same thing over here on this side. So the top step went to the right vanishing point. The second step, straight down. The next one, back to the right vanishing point, straight down. Right vanishing point, and then straight down. And then all these little lines that are left over, we want to get rid of those because we don't need them anymore. And then if you erased part of your building, you want to go back and add that in. Then at the top of our stairs, we would have a door. So we would go straight up And then we're on the left side of the building. So the top of our door goes to the left vanishing point, and then straight back down the other side of the steps. And that would be our little door. So let's say we wanted a sign up here. Let's say this is a restaurant and it's called Jordan's. So what we would do is go in from the inside corner of our building, and we would just draw a vertical line. And however long you make that, that's how big your sign's going to be. All right, so then I'm going to take the bottom of that to the left vanishing point, and the top of that to the left vanishing point. And then the same thing at the beginning, that vertical line, I'll cut off at the end. And then my letters just go inside this box. And then if you wanted just the lettering, you would erase the box. If you want the letters inside the box, then you leave the box. We're going to go up to the second building right here, and we're going to do some really tall windows here. So we're going to start with a long line on the right side, and then we want that same length on the left. So I'm going to pull those lines over, and then I'm going to do a long line on the left, and then I'm going to erase those guidelines I used to see how long they needed to be. And then I'm just going to take the bottom and top of those to the vanishing point, but I'm going to stop before I hit the back side of the building. So I'm going to go and I'm going to stop right before I hit the other side of that building. And then I'm going to take the top to the right vanishing point because I'm on the right side of the building, and stop right before I get to the other side. And then what I used at the beginning is going to be the same at the end. And then the same thing on the left side. The top goes to the left vanishing point, but stop right before you get to the other side. And then the bottom goes to the left vanishing point, but stop right before you get to the other side. And then copycat. That same vertical line that was at the beginning is the same at the end. So this is a style. You could leave this like this and just put those glass shine marks like they're huge panels of glass. But we want to do something a little different. I want to do 2 long windows on each side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little strip out of the middle by making 2 lines that are vertical. And then I'm just going to erase the top. So I'm going to erase that little top and that little top of the middle section. And that leaves me with 2 long windows. And I'm going to do the same thing on the left side. So I've got a long strip here and a long strip here. And then I'm going to erase what's at the top and erase what's at the bottom. All right, and then the bottom half of this we're going to turn into bricks, and the top half we're going to curve. So it's the same thing like when you did the brick wall in 1-point perspective. You're just going to take some little lines like this, some little dots, and you're going to put them in the same place over here on this side. And then you're going to take those points to the vanishing point. So on the right side, they go to the right vanishing point, and you're only going to draw inside the windows. And then you're going to go down, take the point to the right vanishing point, like so. And then take the next one to the right vanishing point. Like that. And then you're just going to do the same thing on the left. So these little dots that we made on the left-hand side, you're just going to draw inside the windows or inside the boxes that we made. Could you do an entire building like this? Yes, you could make an entire building brick by doing this exact same process. You would just use that middle line to put your dots down and then take the sides to the vanishing point. All right, so now with bricks, you do the same thing in the odd rows. So like in the first row, I'm going to do 3 lines. So the same thing goes in row 3 and row 5. And then I do the same thing over here. And they're going to get closer together because they're getting closer to that vanishing point. And that's okay. And then they go in the middle on the second row, on the even rows. And that gives us a brick wall. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And I may not be able to fit as many. It may be 2, 1, 2, 1. And that's okay, because that side's a little skinnier, right? All right, and that gives us a little brick wall section inside our building. Then in the top part up here, we're going to round off the top of this window. We're going to round off the top of the window. And then we're going to get rid of those corners. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing on the left side. We're just going to round off those corners. And then we're going to go back and erase and get rid of those corners. This is when one of those brand new erasers that go on your pencil end come in really super handy. All right, now we're going to divide these windows in half. So we're going to go half this way with a vertical line and in half this way with a vertical line. And then we're going to do the same thing here in half and in half. And then on the right side, we're going to take 2 lines to the right vanishing point. One here, like so. And then another one here, like so. And then we get some little shine marks on those. And then we're going to do the same thing on the left side. So on the left side of the vanishing point, those lines go to the left vanishing point. And we have some little shine marks. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a catwalk over to our other building. So we're going to take a point here and a point here. And we're going to take those 2 points to the left vanishing point. So this one goes to the left and this one goes to the left. And then that same vertical line that we started with, we'll end with. And since this is our horizon line right here and we're above the horizon line, we would see the bottom part of this catwalk. If you're under the horizon line, then you wouldn't see it. You would see the top. If you're on the horizon line, then you don't see the top or the bottom. So this corner would go to our right vanishing point with a short line. And then where that line ends, that goes back to the left vanishing point. And that would be the underside of that catwalk that we would see. Like so. Then if we wanted to put some windows in our catwalk, we would start with a vertical line. And then we would take the top and bottom to the left vanishing point, but stop before you hit the other side. And then we would just divide that into some sections. So I'd have like a big section, a little section, a big section, a little section, a big section. And then I would erase the top and the bottom of the little section. And I would keep those big sections. And put some little shine marks in there. All right. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to do 3 big windows right here on the top of this big building that we have going on. So we're going to do one line that's vertical. And then since we're on the right side of the building, we're going to the right vanishing point. So we're going to go towards the right vanishing point, but stop before you hit the other side. And then the bottom, we're going to take to the right vanishing point and stop when you hit the building. So that one's going to run into the side of that building. Then that vertical line you started with has to be the same at the end. And we just go right into that building that's below you. That overlapping where this stuff is behind this one helps with that optical illusion, that optical perspective where it intensifies the 3D. Then we're going to use that same vertical line that we used at the beginning to make some sections. We're going to do a big section, a little section, a big section, and then a little section. And then we're going to get rid of those little sections by erasing the top and bottom and keep those big sections. Put you some little shine marks in there, and we've got some big windows. All right, in between Jordan's little restaurant right here and our next building over here, we've got this space in between here. And if we wanted to make this like an alleyway, like, you know, Jordan's restaurant's got to have a place to put their trash, right? So we could do a big dumpster right here. So the way that you do that is you do a line going straight up that building. And then that dumpster has to sit on the ground. So we're going to line up that bottom of the line with the left vanishing point and draw away from the building. Then we're going to take the top of that line, line it up with the left vanishing point, draw away from the building. Then that vertical line that's at the beginning is the same at the end. We erase anything that's hanging out and that building line that's inside our dumpster. Then the bottom of the second line you drew goes to the right vanishing point, and the top goes to the right vanishing point, and you just stop when you run into the next building. The top here goes to the right vanishing point. Then wherever that trash can ends, that goes back to the left vanishing point. Because you have to copycat. Whatever's here has to be the same here. That's how you know where it goes, because it's got to be the same. Then we erase that little part of the building we see. We could put some big trash bags hanging out the top of our trash can. And I kind of made that big. It's kind of the same size as Jordan's restaurant. So if I wanted to fix that, like if I see like, wow, that's wrong, then all I would do is take this line and pull it down back to the left vanishing point. And then take this line right here and take it to the right vanishing point. And then just erase what's above it. And now that's a little bit more realistic size, right? And then to see the top of it, we just take this line to the right vanishing point, and when it ran into our building, we would stop. So sometimes we have to make mistakes in order for it to be right eventually, right? But if you see that something's wrong, fix it. Don't just leave it there. Don't just be like, oh, well, it'll be all right. Fix it. We could even have some trash hanging out on the ground, around it, whatever. Those are just little details. You can go back, and the more details you add, the more realistic it looks. All right, we're going to go to the left side of this big building that's right to the left of Jordan's. And we're going to do a big opening. So I'm going to go in just a little bit. This is my center line that makes that building. Let me show you where I'm at. So I'm on this building right here. Let me zoom back in just a little bit. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to make a big opening on this side of the building. So I'm going to go to my middle line, and I'm going to go in just a little bit and draw another vertical line. And then I'm going to take the top of that to the left vanishing point. And then I'm going to come straight back down the other side. Now, let's say that this is like a garage or a car wash or I don't know, whatever you wanted to make it be. If we wanted to make this to where it attached to our road, then we would take this point and connect it to the right vanishing point, and we would come straight out to the end of our sidewalk and then straight down right there to make the end of our sidewalk. Then we would do the same thing on this side. We would take this point, line it up with the right vanishing point, come straight out, and when I hit my sidewalk, I'd come straight down. And then everything in between here would get erased. That sidewalk would disappear right there. And then that would become like a road. If we wanted to see the road go into the building, then this point right here would go back to the right vanishing point, and it would extend through the building. So now we have a pathway that's going through the building. So let's practice some stairs again. Let's say that there's some stairs inside this building going up to a door. So the way that we would start that is we would decide where our stairs are going to go, and we would draw a straight line. And then we would go to the left vanishing point, straight up, left vanishing point, straight up. And let's do a topper back to the left vanishing point, like so. Then this bottom point right here, this would go back to that left vanishing point, and this would make the side of the stairs. This is the side that we would be looking at. So now to make the runners, all these corners would go to the right vanishing point. So we would go to the right vanishing point, inside corners as well, inside and outside, all go to that right vanishing point. And since we're getting super close to our horizon line, the tops you wouldn't see very much. You just see a little sliver of them, right? They're real small. Then to make the other side, we would copycat whatever we did here. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So that's a straight vertical, and then to the left vanishing point. Straight vertical, left vanishing point. Straight vertical, left vanishing point. And then all these little lines that are left over, we would get rid of because we don't need those anymore. And then our door would come straight up from our stairs. And that would be our little door right there. All right. Let's say this building back here on the back, this one that's back here, let's jump back there to that building. And we're going to do kind of a framed out window. So we're going to do the same thing we did down here where we went away and did 2 boxes. We're going to do the same thing up here. So I'm going to go back to my middle line, and I'm going to scoot over just a little bit to the right and make another line. And then I'm going to scoot over a little bit to the left and make a line. All right, and then I'm going to take the top to the left vanishing point and come straight back down. And then I'm going to take the right to the right vanishing point. Stop before you hit the edge of the building, and then straight back down. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make a bunch of like windows. So we're going to take the top and make some little marks that are evenly spaced on the right side and the left side. And then every time there's a little dot like that we made, we're just going to come straight down until we hit that next building, because we can't see the rest of it. It's behind that big building we just did. Then we're going to do the same thing on the right side. Every time we drew one of those little dots, we're going to come straight down with the vertical. Then we're going to go to the side, and we're going to make some little dots going down the side. On the left side of the building, those little dots get lined up with the left vanishing point. And on the right side of the building, these little dots get lined up with the right vanishing point. So when you're working on the left side, most of the time it goes to the left vanishing point. When you work on the right side, all those little dots have to line up with that right vanishing point. We learned with bird's eye view that it's very, very important that everything goes to that point. It looks crazy weird if you don't take everything to the point. So it's better to do it right the first time than have to go back and redo it. All right, let's go to this building back here in the back. We're going to do two different style windows. On the left side over here, I'm going to go to my center line, and then I'm going to move over just a little bit, and I'm going to make some vertical lines. So I'm going to make like three vertical lines. Then I'm going to take the top and bottom of those lines to the left vanishing point, and I'm going to stop right before I hit the back side of that building. Then I'm going to go to the next one and take the top and the bottom. And if I hit a building, that's fine. You just stop when you hit that building. Top and bottom. And then that same line that you started with, is the same line that you end with, but you want to make sure it's the same all the way down. You don't want one to be super long and then the next one to be super short. So you do that part last so that they all line up. And then you just put some shine marks. Those are just long strips of glass. Then on the other side over here, we're going to do this exact same thing, but then we're going to divide it into some sections with some vertical lines. So we want these to line up. So I want to very lightly figure out where these lines need to go. And I'm going to go back to my original middle and then slide over just a little bit and draw 3 lines. And then I'm going to take the top to the right vanishing point and the bottom to the right vanishing point of each one of these. Remember, we're on the right side, so everything goes to the right vanishing point. When you're on the left side, everything goes to the left. All right, then we're just going to divide it with some sections. So I'm going to go through with the vertical line, and I'm just going to divide these up into some smaller boxes. And then I'm just going to put some shine marks on each little individual window. All right. Could we go through and keep doing some here too? Yeah, you could. Or you could do a different style on the bottom half of it. It's up to you. All right, then this building that's hanging out in the back, we're just going to make this whole side on both sides panels, just glass panels. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this middle line and I'm going to go through and make some little markers on it. Then those little markers on the left side, I'm going to connect with the left vanishing point, and I'm going to stop when I hit the other side of my building. So I'm going to go all the way to the edge. So I'm going to go from that dot to the edge of the building, from the dot to the edge of the building, from the dot to the edge of the building, over and over again. Then I'm going to take those same little dots and I'm going to take them to the right vanishing point on the right side of the building. So all these little lines get connected. And when there's another building, I just stop when I hit that other side of that building. Then I'm going to take the top of my building and I'm going to take some little dots at the top on the left and some little dots on the right. And then every time I have a little dot, I do a straight vertical line. Remember, we learned with bird's eye view that it's very important that these lines be straight. Your vertical lines must be vertical. They must be parallel to the edge of the piece of paper. They can't go diagonal or it's not going to look right. It's going to mess up your illusion. All right, we've got one last building to look at. So we've got this big building over here on the right. We're going to do some individual windows like this was maybe like an apartment. So I'm going to go to that middle line that starts my building, and then I'm going to go in just a little bit, and I'm going to make 3 long lines. 1, 2, 3. And then since I'm on the left side of the building, I'm going to take every one of these, the bottom and the top, to the left vanishing point. All right, and then I'm going to make a big space and a little space. A big space and a little space. And then a big space. All right, and then I'm going to keep the big spaces, and to get rid of the little spaces, I'm going to erase the top and bottom of each one. All right, if you erase part of your window, make sure you use your ruler to go back and draw it in. Then we're going to make some divide lines. So I'm going to go to the middle of this window and make sure my ruler is vertical. And I'm going to draw a vertical line in the middle of each box. Then I'm going to go to my second one, vertical line in the middle of each box. And then my last window, vertical line in the middle of each box. I could leave it like that. That's a style window. That would be a really good sliding door. But if I want to make these like apartment or house windows, then I would take the middle of my box and I would take that to the left vanishing point because you're on the left side of the building on each box. So I would take the middle of each box and line that up with the left vanishing point and draw a line. Middle of the box, line it up with the left vanishing point and draw a line. And that gets us some like apartment style. And we could, even have some blinds or some curtains, whatever, to make them even look even more homey or apartment-y like. All right, over here on the right side, we're just going to do some plain boxes. So I'm going to do 2 lines, 1 and 2. I'm going to take the top and bottom of both of those to the right vanishing point because I'm on the right side of the building. All right, and then I'm just going to take this and split it up into some sections. So a big section, a little section. A big section, a little section. Big and a little. And you always want to end with the big section. All right, and then we're going to erase the tops and bottoms of those little sections. If you lose your windows when you erase, go back and draw them in using your ruler. And then we're just going to leave those like that. We're just going to put some shine marks in them. Just some good simple windows. Underneath here, we're going to do a door. So we're going to take a vertical line, take the top of it to the right vanishing point because we're on the right side. And then we're going to pull that straight back down. And we're going to do a little doorknob. If I wanted to do an awning sticking over this door, I would start with my vertical line. And then I would take the bottom to the left vanishing point. And then if you rounded this over like so, and then took the bottom to the right vanishing point, and the top to the right vanishing point, and then rounded it on the other side, it would make it look like more like a realistic little awning because they're usually rounded like that in bigger cities for sure. And then at the base or at the end, you would have these little sticks that came down to hold up the other side of the awning. Adding things like bushes, in your grassy areas, maybe even like some flowers growing, adds to the detail of your city. And the more details you can add, like the trash and the flowers and that kind of stuff, the better. Now, when you get done adding all these details, either adding contrast through value or contrast through color is a really good way to make your whole drawing pop. So you want to always make sure you have something added to the sky and something adding to the ground. So by adding your sun, maybe some clouds in the sky, adds more realism and fills the space a little more. Doing something like adding some value to your little balcony up here makes your balcony stand out from your ground and makes it easier to tell that it's something different, right? It's different than your buildings. Adding value to your buildings helps it stand out from one another. If this is like a cinder block balcony, making it look like it has a cinder block texture to it would help increase the contrast, right? And so thinking about everything having value, one side being super dark, one side being medium, and then one side being light is real helpful to make things stand out from one another. If everything's just the same darkness or lightness, then it doesn't help it stand out. But if you have one dark, one medium, one light, then it really helps things stand out. Remember, we can use that cross hatching where you go in one direction and then another direction to kind of help things get those values on there. If you choose to do value, I don't want you doing smudgy finger because it's going to get rid of your details, and that's not what we're looking for. I want your details to stay crisp and clean. If we wanted to change this into a cinder block, you would just take this middle line and put some lines on it, and that would be your spacing. And then every time there's a dot, you would take that dot to the left vanishing point and draw away. And then every time there's a dot on the left side, you would take it to the right vanishing point. It's that crisscross. Like so. And then to add the little bricks, you would take the top to the right vanishing point. And then every time there's a brick, it just comes straight down. Straight down. Straight down. Straight down. And then it's the opposite. It's the opposite on the row below it. So in between these two lines is where your line would go on the next row. It's the same thing as brick. They're just a little bigger and longer, right? And then where it was on the first row, it goes in the same place. All the evens and all the odds are the same always. And by doing that, that makes this look completely different than everything that's going on around it. So it's the same thing on this side. You would take the top to the left vanishing point to divide it. And then every time you have a line, it comes straight down with a vertical. Straight down with the vertical. And then it's the opposite on the next row. And then you go back. All right. And then that makes that a little different. You can also come through and give your grass, like if this is a grassy area, you could come through and like scribble scrabble on it a little bit, and that would give it a texture. Think like X's and circles, and that gives it a little texture because grass isn't smooth, right? It has lots of different little dark areas and light areas. And if there were some that kind of poked over the side of the road, that's okay because that's how grass grows, right? So you could do the same thing here and here to give that grassy area. Maybe you could do something over here. Going through and deciding if you've got two areas like this, the inside area would probably be your darker area. And so going through and shading that helps give some contrast in your drawing from one part of the building to the other part. So there's lots of ways to add contrast to your buildings so that you can tell the difference between the sides or the inside and the outside. All right. So I'm going to leave you with that. When you're done, take a picture of it, submit it on Canvas, and then put it in the paper holder for your class.